भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ ज्ञानातिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणवलिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमस्ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरे प्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रीपदाय कृष्ण विस्तारितं बहुपदकृतय श्रीदेवाय स्वामिने सुरक्षादारास्मि नमः श्रीपदाय कृष्ण विस्तारितं श्रीते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने नमः। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादिताश्च मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्किपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनकारम्। Hare Krishna. So we have a short class today. So we are on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 5. Nirmanam mohajita sangadesha adhyatmanitya vinivritta. Nirmana mohajita sangadosha adhyatmanitya vinivritta kamaha. द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ता सुखदुःखसंज्ञे गच्छन्त्यमूढा पदमव्ययं तत्। Ashwini, you read?
Okay, Mata. Thank you. Translation: those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Can I read translation again, Mataji?
Yes.
Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to the eternal kingdom. Purport. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is built up thinking himself the lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. Oh. For when one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge for what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai.
Hmm. So this purport, so the yoga of the Supreme Person. Now we have Krishna has described this material world, right? The upside down tree and the real tree. Now how to move from the false to the real, right? So this text is giving the path. So what's the path? Nirmana, free from false prestige. So that, what is this prestige, false prestige? What is it? It's described in the purple. Illusion and false association, meaning moha. Who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress. Meaning in this material world, there's happiness and distress, meaning I'm happy when I acquire something and I'm in distress when I lose something. And who unbewildered. This is amudha. Mudha means gadha, donkey, right? Fool. So amudha means Buddha, who's intelligent and bewildered. So what happened? He knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. So let's examine this. We may think it's very simple. We've read this millions of times, but the point is that we are still stuck in it. So the surrendering process, we all say, Krishna says, surrender unto me, but how do I surrender? So the surrendering process is given here. The first qualification is what?
One should
To
be
be free from
deluded by-
false prestige.
deluded by pride. Should not
Yeah,
be
one should not be deluded by
deluded.
pride.
Right.
Pride. And what is the pride?
Right. That I'm the doer and I'm owner, proprietor.
Yeah, I believe that this whole world belongs to me, right? So the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature, you know, those real estate agent and those owners, I mean, they are the builders, right? They really believe the land belongs to them. No, they really believe the world belongs to them. One should know no, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature, it is very difficult to surrender unto the Supreme Person God. Let me see. We are here in the material world. We are still here. What does that mean? This is an indication that we haven't surrendered to Krishna. All right. And why we are not able to surrender to Krishna? Because of pride. What is that pride? I believe that this world belongs to me. So, and therefore it's meant for my use. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. False prestige, man, right? Man. For one who's always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Now, this pride is due to illusion, moha. Ashwini, can you mute yourself? There's a lot of noise. Ashwini, just mute. Yeah. So, for one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. What is that illusion? Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for, meaning that I'm here just for a short time, that I make my empire. And I believe that I'm going to enjoy this empire. He had a foolish notion that he's the lord of the world. Just heard now, you know, that in this war in Ukraine, you know, thousands of devotees have died. Thousands of devotees. So, and what's the whole war about? It's about possession of land, right? One country is going and they are trying to capture another land and trying to make that so-called owner surrender to them. That's the whole war. If the other person will surrender, then the war is over. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he had a foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated and he's always in trouble. Always in trouble. Oh my God. So the whole world moves under this impression. Whole world is under this impression. Yeah, so, we take one land and we say, okay, this is mine, right? So countries say, this is mine, right? I heard some country, they have put a wall. They build a wall as a boundary. This section is yours, this section is mine, right? In Europe, they've done it. I think in China somewhere also they put a wall. Is it? So this is on the other side of, and they're speaking the same language on both sides. They're speaking the same language, same culture, but God knows how they're going to fight. Then they put a wall. I'm proprietor of this land and you're proprietor of this land. There may be natural boundaries like mountains that makes, the wall, but then you have the man-made proprietorship also. God. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is free from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations. So what are the associations? Family, society, and nation. These faulty associations bind one to this. So, sorry. Yeah, so these faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, so what is one's own and what is not one's own? One should cultivate actual knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. What is it?
His body is not his own. His body is not his own.
Yeah, body is not his own. Then what?
Body and the
the soul.
material world.
Material world,
World.
body, the material world, yes.
He has his soul. He belongs to Krishna.
Yeah, nothing is his.
Nothing is
Right.
his.
Nothing is his. Even the body is not his.
Yeah. And the pride and the joy and the pain.
So when one has it, so the main problem is what? What is the main problem? Main problem.
Is the illusion, Mataji,
What illusion?
that this is his own.
Yeah, so what's the main problem in the whole story of being in this material world? What's the main problem?
That we think we are this body. We think we are this body.
The main problem is that we don't want to surrender
Surrender.
to Krishna, right? This is the main problem. we are not ready to surrender to Krishna. As soon as I desire to surrender to Krishna, I am able to give up my false prestige, my pride. It's like so, you have to be really proud to believe anything belongs to us, right? Now Krishna is going to describe his kingdom. Text 6. Natad bhashayate suryo nashanko na pavakaha yat katvana nirvantante tadhama paramam mama. Yes, Shikala, you can read. It's a long verse. Read paragraph by paragraph.
Okay. That supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never returns to this material world. That's what by Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada, the Prabhupada says. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna, Golok, Vrindavan is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all the planets are self-illuminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous, but all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikuntha constitutes the shining sky known as the Brahmajyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan.
Okay, so now here, Prabhupada is giving the geography of the material world, the spiritual world, right? So, the spiritual sky, so there is an effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. So this Brahma Jyoti is coming from where? You read here? From where?
Planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan.
From Golok Vrindavan. Right? So just like how we have the sun illuminates everything, right? So the sun illuminates the moon and all the stars. So similarly, the effulgence of Golok Vrindavan is illuminating all the Vaikuntha planets. But then part of that effulgence, gets covered by a cloud, called Mahat Tattva. This is the material world. You are getting an idea? Vaikuntha means, so there's Golok Vrindavan. So from Golok Vrindavan, the main planet there. So it's self-illuminating. And this illuminating all the Vaikuntha planets. Continue.
As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in the conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back coming back here. In this conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom, and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge.
We see what Krishna is promising to us. So we are in the dark material world, right? So, but as soon as you reach the spiritual sky, so but how? By cutting through the false, perverted, fearless material world. So what is it that's keeping us in this material world?
The conditional life.
What is that condition?
He considers himself to be the Lord of this material.
Yeah, our false prestige, our
Prestige.
pride. So when that false prestige, that false pride is cut, and we recognize that the world doesn't belong to us. The world belongs to Krishna. All right. Then he enters in the spiritual kingdom because he has no work in this material world. Whereas we have work in this material world. What is our work? We were trying to play that I'm God. Now continue.
One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron clothes. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. Should I read?
Yeah. So now Prabhupada is saying one should be captivated by this information. See, you need a goal. All right. You need the goal. So this particular verse, Krishna is describing his own abode. So he's saying in his abode, you don't need the sun, you don't need moon, because already Krishna Lok is sending all the light. It's always light. So one should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. So why is he not doing? Why is he not giving up this material world?
Attached to this material world and because of false pride.
Yeah, he's too attached. He's too attached to this material world. Right? He's too attached. So he may be happy, just to send out little charity here and there. He's little attracted to offer obeisances to the official respect to the sadhus. And then he's waiting when they will go away, so that he can live his life. So one should desire to extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. So how? It's not possible for us to do it by ourselves. So therefore, we need the association of others. If you are too lonely, you only by yourself, you won't have strength. The whole thing will remain in books only. Your understanding will get stuck only in books only. So bookish knowledge is not sufficient. It is required, but not sufficient. On.
The words paramam mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord. But the spiritual world is paramam, full of six opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2.2.15 also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means.
Every nook and corner is the proprietor of the Supreme Lord. But this spiritual sky is supreme, Paramam. Okay, so the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. So, meaning that the material, spiritual world is under potency of Radharani. Spiritual world is the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Lord. Right? What is that internal potency?
Antaranga Shakti.
Antaranga Shakti. Text 7. Now, this is very important, extremely important. See, and we have to learn these verses by heart. 7. Mamevam Shojivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Shastani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati Mani Karshati. So who will read now? All right.
The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Purport. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and the living entities are the separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Narsimhadev, Vishnumurti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternal servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead, are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities. As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity, as an individual soul, has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world.
So this is very interesting, right? It's extremely interesting. Famous verse, Mamayvamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manashasthani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. So who we are. So in the first section, Prabhupada is making the distinction between the individual soul and the Supreme Lord. Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattva. All right? Two. Is it clear? Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. So they are not same. And every Jeev, so every Jeev has minute independence. See, like we exist. When you speak of God, God means he who decides what to do. He's free to decide what to do, isn't it? And the Jeev also is free to decide what he wants to do. It's what we call Jeev. It's not stone, right? Stone, like I have this table here. It moves according to my wish, where I push it, where I place it. It doesn't move around by itself, right? So the Jeev had this minute independence, which makes you take responsibility for your each and every action, right? And the result of our action is where we are today, each and every one of us. So, because we choose to be in the material world, so we come under the grip of material nature. And when we come under the grip of material nature and we forget to serve Krishna, isn't it? You ask people, please come to the temple. So much you have to plead. Of course, they will come and they will take darshan, they'll give some dakshina or something, and then they go away and they forget. And then when they're in trouble, then they come running, like I heard somebody say, when do you go to astrologers? It's when you're in trouble, right? So similarly, when do you go to temples? Right, when you're in trouble. If you are not in trouble, you don't go to temples. Looks like, I don't know. The temples are quite full. And of course, the devotees, we find them here regularly. Right? Devotees are there all the time. But the general public, they will come when they are in trouble. Right? So, in his liberated state, he's free from this material condition. And he's under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord, yes. So why do devotees come to the temple? Because they like to chant, they like the arti, they like prasadam, and some of them like to do some service also. So in his liberated state, he's freed from this material condition, and he's under the engagement, transcendental service unto the Lord. So that's what he wants. But when he's in conditioned life, he's dominated by the material modes of nature. And he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It's so horrible when here you are, you have seva for Krishna. All right? You have seva for Krishna. And on the other side, you have the work of material nature. And when you choose not to do service to Krishna and you choose to do service to the material world, but when you try to serve the material world, there is so much frustration, there's no happiness. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. And some people just can't handle it, right? So what do? They commit suicide. That's what they do. I just saw, they say that in India, like among the highest rates of suicide are found in Maharashtra, meaning where we are. Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, and somewhere else. 4 states, they have the largest rate of suicide, meaning they are not able to handle material nature either. So they don't want to serve Krishna. You give them the opportunity to serve Krishna. They don't want to serve Krishna. And then what do? They naturally fall into material existence. Their material existence kicks them. It's so horrible, it's material nature. So what do? People just commit suicide. Yeah, go on.
The living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up, as though shackled by iron chains. He is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent, which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses. And when he is liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyadhinayan Shruti. Sava Esha Brahmanishta Idam Shariram Martyam Attisrijya Brahma Bhishma Padya Brahmana Pashyati Brahmana Shnoti Brahmana Naivedam Sarvam Anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body, and in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. From Smriti, also it is understood. Vasanti Yatra Purusha Sarve Vaikuntha Murtayah. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godheads. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnumurti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, now, so what are we doing in this material world? So the conditioned soul is bound as though shackled by iron chains. So, can you imagine we are like Shikara said, this body doesn't belong to us, right? Just the land doesn't belong to us, the body also doesn't belong to us. But that soul is shackled to that body by iron chains, right? So what is it that's binding him? His false ego. And the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence, the mind. So the mind gets focused on sense gratification. And then the person develops a false understanding of who he is. So if the mind is in mode of goodness, his activities are good. In mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when mind is the mode of ignorance, it travels in the lower species of life. It's a transmigration of the soul. Seeing that, the mind is the cause of our transmigration from one birth, one body to the next. God. So, it is clear, however, in this word that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and senses. And when he's liberated, this material covering perishes. See, so it's not by suicide. All right? If we want to get rid of our suffering, so now we are chained to this material body by our own false ego and by the mind. All right? So if we are to become free from this material body, then it's not by committing suicide. This is why people are thinking, I'm fed up of this life. I don't know this, let me just die. So this is a mind that is in tamas. It is clear, however, in this world that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses. And when he's liberated, this material covering perishes. So when we are liberated from the bondage of the mind and the senses through sense control, mind and sense control, then, so when he's liberated, this material covering perishes. So meaning that the material body is perishing, but you, the soul, you become manifested. Your spiritual body becomes manifest. And when he's liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. What is that individual capacity? Individual capacity. Yes, Anupama.
What we hear, Mataji, like, does it refer to ghosts?
Oh, really? Is it ghost that's being described here? Ashwini, what is being described here?
It gets its spiritual body.
See, when people are studying in their material body, through their mind or whatever, so what do? They want to get rid of the gross body, right? But then they become ghosts. But when the conditioned soul is liberated, meaning no more cycle, birth and death. So when he becomes liberated, then what happens? His spiritual body is manifested. The original self. The original self is manifested. So it is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body. Like everybody, we all want to know what happens when we enter Krishna Lok. So here Prabhupada is saying he's going to see the Supreme Lord face to face. He can hear him, he can speak to him, and he understands. And he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. So, in the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Person Godhead. So he looks same, just like human beings, they look alike, right? So, and why they look alike? Because the father, you look like your father and mother, right? Or you don't look like a dog, right? If father and mother, human father and mother, they give birth to other human beings. So you look like them. So similarly, when we take birth in the spiritual world, then we look like our Father, the Supreme Lord. Right? So this is the mind. In the spiritual, as far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnu Murti. So when we become liberated from this material world, so maybe, where is it? Where is it? Okay, so we have we look alike, and the bodily construction, yeah. So meaning that because we are part and parcel of Vishnu Tattva, therefore in quality, we get the same type of bodies. We don't get material bodies, we get spiritual bodies. So this verse is extremely important, and we should know, we should read it, and we should memorize it. Okay, one last section is remaining.
The words Mame Vansha, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter, which can be cut into pieces and joined together. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcel of gold are also gold.
Okay, so now this last section is that when we speak of fragment, it doesn't mean that it is a broken piece. All right? It's not a broken piece. It is simply part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And it is eternal. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body. So when we become liberated, then we leave this material world and we develop a spiritual body where we can enjoy Krishna's association. So is this text clear? It's clear? It's very, very important. Ashwini, is it clear?
Yeah, Mataji. Yeah, it is clear. But I have a question.
Yes.
It's on the previous verse about the surrender.
Mm.
So like what we are doing, we are following the process of chanting, and so that's not enough, is it? So we just were chanting till now and chanting and religiously just mechanically chanting and thinking that, oh, this will take us back to Godhead.
Well, the chanting is removing our sinful desires. Besides removing the sins itself, it is removing the sinful desires, which is the root cause of our commission of evil actions. Right? So the chanting is making us become more and more purified. And when we read the books, we understand them much better. The message of Krishna is in the books. So our devotional service, so we need to bring life to our devotional service. Not just do things mechanically. If we become aware that I'm doing things in a mechanical way, and maybe I can choose to do some other activity that will be more challenging. So chanting, yes, most important, but also doing the other services. Us preaching is the other service, the most important thing. Is it okay?
Yeah, Mataji, it's an eye-opener that the books and reading books and understanding and inculcating, that is also so much.
Yes, because when you chant, then you're able to understand the books. And the books is giving you a map of this material world. But here is giving you a map of the spiritual world. So choose where you want to be. if all of us, or as described in text 5, meaning the contrary of it, if we are full of false prestige, illusion, and false possession, then what will be our life? If this is what we are doing here in this material world. So when we read the books, then we become aware, right? You read it twice, then I read it twice also, the same text. Why? Because I want to know how to become free from all this. Isn't it? So knowledge is important. We are chanting, but the knowledge is also important, because the knowledge is making us more able to surrender to Krishna. Right now we are reading from the 5th canto. We are reading the forest of material enjoyment. And it's so horrible what is described there, right? So the idea why Shukdev Goswami is speaking all this, he's speaking all this so that we say, okay, let me surrender to Krishna, right? Other people, they go on struggling and struggling, and they don't surrender to Krishna. So Krishna is putting an advertisement here in text 6. He's saying, look, your world here needs sun and moon and fire, electricity. Mine doesn't need anything like this, right? Conscious living is very important.
Mataji, you also made a very, very good point that why we are in this material world is because we don't want to surrender.
Yeah, I
That's
read
what-
it from the books. I read it from Prabhupada's purport. Right?
But we all think we want to surrender. I'm surrendered. We think we are already surrendered.
Mm.
But you made a good point that we are
Well,
actually don't want to-
we are tested, right? We are tested, then you know how surrendered we are. All right, so let us stop here.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes.
So, Mataji, but the process is started, na? The very fact that we are chanting, we have developed a detachment from materialistic activities, which most of us were doing, and developed an attachment towards spiritual life. So then the process has started, na? It is
Of course. Of course.
the process of surrender has started, no, Mataji?
Yes, yes. When will it start? When we give up our false ego and I say, no, I want to serve Krishna.
So when we say we want to serve Krishna, we are giving up false ego.
Yes. Yes. We are not holding on to what we have.
But actually, Mataji, we are holding on with one hand, and with the other hand, we are serving Krishna, no?
Yeah, gradually we will let go, no?
Acha, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Step by step, step by step.
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
See, the thing is that all of us, we need to be aware that here, like somebody said, we become ghosts, right? We give up the material, but we become ghosts. So we should know, right? We should know that like committing suicide is when we become ghost. But when you become liberated, you develop your spiritual body, right? So we should have a very clear understanding of what is this material world, what is a material body, what it consists of. We should know how, if you leave this material body, your gross body, you still have the subtle body, and you cannot escape that subtle body because we are locked by iron chain. We have read somewhere, right? We're shackled by by iron chain. And what is that iron chain? The three gunas. that drive us to do something. So it's only when we change our desires and we say, no, we want Krishna. The way it's amazing in the war of Mahabharata, the way these monarchs, they fought against Krishna, you know, how dare they fight against Krishna? Instead of fighting for Krishna, they fight against Krishna. Right? It's horrible. So all of us, we are fighting against Krishna. Isn't it? Krishna, I don't want you, I don't want you, I don't want to chant, I don't want to offer my food. Offering my food means I acknowledge that my food is coming from him, right? When I maintain my house is a temple, so I don't want to maintain my house and put a temple in my house, right? I'm resisting all this. I'm fighting against Krishna. All right, so now we know what it means to come out of the material body. Prabhupada is writing that the spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity, meaning that each and every one of us, we have a certain capacity to do something, right? Each and everybody has some usage in the service of Krishna. All right, it's already 9 o'clock. We're late today. Hare Krishna. Yeah, the purports were very long. Very long. So please read them again. Read them again. This section has to be read again and again. Okay, this is the process of liberation. All right.
Yes,
Hare
thank you,
Krishna.
Mother.
Hare
Explaining it.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.